Hello everyone, Ladislas Maurice from thewanderinginvestor.com. So today I'm in Boquete in Panama with Calvin Froge from Twitter. How are you?
Good.
Cool. So Calvin, if you follow Calvin on Twitter, he's prolific on the platform, and you launched a subscription service approximately 2 years ago, and the results as you post them on Twitter absolutely breathtaking. I'd say you're pretty much beating everyone. So, and it focuses a lot on shipping, commodities, energy, etc.
Right.
Can you elaborate a bit on the service and why you believe that having such data in terms of shipping is so important for investors?
Yeah, so I got into the shipping markets several years back, and I just really got interested because of my exposure to energy. And I just started, figuring out that it was really relevant to what was, happening in the rest of the economy and the rest of global trade to know what was happening in shipping, because 96% of global trade basically happens by seaborne means, for physical exchanges, right? I mean, grains, oil, products from China that make it into our stores, the LNG, the gas that Europe's burning for electricity, the cooking gas that they burn in India and Kenya, South America to cook their food. All this stuff comes on ships. Well, some of it comes on pipelines too, but a heck of a lot comes on ships. So you follow shipping, you are essentially following commodities, right? You're essentially following global trade. You know how all these things move. You start looking at inventories. You start looking at trade balances. You start looking at different economies. So I think that you see things that other people don't see. You see the world no longer from a very sort of nationalist local lens. You see the world as almost a top-down analyst, scientist, planner, insert the word that you want. It just, when you start looking at global trade flows every day and every week, it changes your interpretation of the world. So I think that's why my service has been successful, and why my subscribers have been successful, and why I've been successful in getting above market returns. So this year I'm around 85%. Year to date, in a year when the S&P 500 is down, 17, 18% after a big rally.
I can't say my portfolio is doing as well as that. That's for sure.
But I think that we've done well. We don't only trade shipping stocks. My platform covers about 50 maritime equities in dry bulk, product tankers, crude tankers, LPG, and LNG. So you can...
And I think I'll cut you right here, and I think this is really important, is when you were talking about the understanding the trade flows. In today's environment, macro investing has become much more important than when there was stability in the world. When there's instability, when there's uncertainty, when there's chaos,
that's a great point.
Understanding the macro environment is more important than ever. So like moments like this, I hadn't made that link. You helped me make that link right now, and it's making me think this is probably the sort of service, because I primarily focus on macro. This is potentially the sort of service that I could benefit from.
Yeah. So for example, we looked at why did the riots in Sri Lanka happen? How did the government respond after that? I mean, it was essentially an LPG crisis, right? Well, LPG and fertilizers, right? And so then you start looking at other countries.
And you could see it coming.
You can see it coming. You could I was talking about diesel shortages, and diesel inventories going the wrong way. Evidence of stress. I was seeing diesel cargoes go from weird point A's to weird point B's. I was seeing trade flows change. So I knew months and months in advance that, for example, we had big problems developing with diesel. And I already knew a greater context for why we would have systemic diesel issues, because I follow fuel regulations. I follow refinery economics. I knew that IMO 2020, which were the fuel changes that were instituted a couple years ago, were going to fundamentally alter the way that the global oil market and the global fuels market works. I just got back from a fuels conference. I shared a lot of these insights with my subscribers. I was hanging out with the guy who's the lead engineer for the #1 ship engine builder in the world that designs 90% of all of the engines that go into new ships. I got to talk to this guy about where he sees fuels going. One of the big insights that I got from going to this conference, based on all of this other context because of these things I follow, was that we're going to stick with liquid fuels. And the alternatives for non-petroleum based liquid fuels, if that's the direction that the world goes in, they're all less energy dense. You're going to need more tank infrastructure. You're going to need more pipeline infrastructure, more storage infrastructure. I went, and told my guys, I was like, hey, buy some Vopak stock. Vopak was at a low because the market has been in backwardation instead of contango. Storage rates go up during contango. Vopak, pretty much as soon as the next report came out, popped 25%. So that certainly paid for my plane ticket and my resort fee and whatnot at the conference.
And Miami isn't cheap, right?
Yeah, Miami's not super cheap, but we follow things through Marhelm. We follow industries that are very important and that are very opaque to most people. Most people think the economy is Apple and Tesla and Microsoft, right? When really these things, these guys, they're important, but they're kind of consumers of commodities, right? They sell consumer products. They don't do any of the hardcore, extraction, refining, transportation. That people that invest in, Apple wouldn't have any reason to follow, how much capex is going into coal mining or, cobalt mining or manganese or any of these other metals that in the end are important for these companies in the end. So people that invested in these companies, they missed out on what are now historic coal prices, historic diesel prices. The tanker segment, which is a segment that we were really bullish on, I want to say that the average return in the past year for a tanker stock has been 150%. Our top, at the beginning of the year, we made a lot of different picks in shipping. I think we've made about a dozen picks this year of saying, hey, buy this, buy this. I'm buying it. This is why I'm buying it. I think the average return on those recommendations is about 75%. The shipping company that I have the largest position in, that was my largest position until getting heavier on some of the South American oil names, was Hafnia, which is a Danish product tanker company. I got into that stock at like 15 kroner, and it's at about just under 60 kroner now, and is paying 7-8 kroner per quarter in dividends. So I'm literally going to get in my cost basis back within single years in dividends of what I paid on the shares.
That's insane.
So that's you're not going to get those kinds of returns unless you follow these cyclical, volatile industries that everything else relies on. I mean, right now, energy stocks are at a historical low weighting in the S&P 500. The rest of the world, the rest of the capital class, the rest of the economy, they're saying these things are evil. They're not important. We can do without them. But the trading economics, the actual physical commodity prices for these things, the political focus shows you that that's not the case. I mean, how important has the Strategic Petroleum Reserve been to the Biden administration, to international discourse around energy, to U.S. politics? I mean, if you're somebody living in a retired town in Arizona, you might not know anything about it. But anybody that knows the first thing about energy markets knows that it's Joe Biden has probably spent more time thinking about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve than anything else this year. Right? It's extremely important, and so these are the kinds of things that that I cover in my data platform. I cover about 50 maritime equities. I have tools for analyzing trade flows, for showing the rates, how the rates are changing. So
you run your own software and analyze the data yourself, etc.
Yeah,
right?
my background was in software development, so I built my own platform. So you can, in my platform, for example, if there's a big disparity between the equities and the rates that they're earning, the economics, because the economics can change in shipping, overnight. Like companies can go from losing money to earning their market cap in a few months, literally overnight, because of some change, like the Russia-Ukraine war, for instance. So, I look at everything from a recent thing that made it into the weekly roundup, which is the weekly review that I do of the shipping and commodity markets, was that in Kenya they had decided to approve a new LPG pipeline because the government was kind of anti-fossil fuel. They didn't really want to invest in this. They believed in energy transition, etc. And so this was a project that was kind of on the ropes. And then they heard that people in the slums in Nairobi were cooking their meals with plastic bags. They were burning plastic bags, black smoke inside their homes to boil water. So, you can say that, fossil fuels are evil, but the reality is that the entire world has a, kind of a minimum bar for how much energy that we need to live the kinds of lifestyles that we live, to power our cars, to heat our homes, to cool our homes, to cook our food. Boiling water is a very underappreciated problem that is out of sight, out of minds for most Americans, most Europeans. But it takes a lot of energy to boil water.
Yeah. Right.
So, we even look at examples like that. We look at kind of conference call transcripts. We look at earnings reports. I sort of just spend a couple days every week just going through as much news, as much information, as much data as I can, and taking those 2 days of my time and consolidating them into something that can be consumed in 30 minutes. So that's my weekly report. The data platform is what I draw a lot of that data from, which is rates, equities, ship ordering, ship buying, ship scrapping, fuel pricing, lots of different factors. And then we have a discussion forum where a lot of people who are shipping insiders, I'm talking, we've got 3 people in our chat room who individually control more than 100 tankers. So these are, 10 to, let's say 10 to $100 million capital assets, right? This is big money, and we've got these guys, sitting around shooting the shit with us. It's a lot of shipping guys, a lot of hedge funds, institutional investors, but also a lot of private investors like me. So yeah, the subscription fee is it's pricey at this point. I've raised the price because I don't want it to, I want to deliver a lot of value to a close circle of people. I don't really want to dilute the value of what I offer, so I've gradually raised the pricing. I'm only ever going to allow 1,000 people in this group. We're about halfway there now. We've seen people, sort of develop rapport with each other. We know each other's background. We know what people's specializations are. So, Twitter is kind of like a fire hose, right? And what I offer is a little bit more refined.
Cool, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time today. So, if you're interested in finding out more about Calvin's services, there is a link below.
Yep.
Calvin, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
You can go to my website, thewanderinginvestor.com, and sign up to the private list. It's entirely free. This way you will be getting insider information as I travel around the world looking for opportunities. Lastly, feel free to follow me on Instagram at The Wandering Investor. I look forward to hearing from you.